Hello, this is Delmir and welcome to another repair video. We're looking at an iPhone 12. It's actually an iPhone 12 Pro, as you can see clearly from the back here. It has that very powdery finish that's common with the Pro. It is what is done with the Pro as well as the Pro Max. This has a screen that needs to be replaced and the back glass. We're focusing on just the screen needing to be replaced. Now with this one, I noticed that the bottom is quite dirty. If you try to stuff in your pentalobe screwdriver into this with it as it is, you can see it's quite clogged up. It can actually strip the screw because it's just not getting a proper seating. So good thing to do is just clean around the screw first so there isn't any initial resistance as it's coming up. And then you get your tweezers on the inside there. You can do this also with like a safety needle or a pin or something like that. It works good. But so far what I found works quite well is using the tweezers. This left screw here is not flat. Like this one's set in. I don't know if you guys can see it, but that left screw here, it's not flat with the board. It has not been completely put in. This phone has been worked on before. Interesting. Let's get those screws out. So I wonder if this screw has actually already been stripped. And it does have a look like it's been stripped. Yeah, that's not coming out. Now there's a few different ways that you can deal with a screw like this. I find that one way that works well, but you gotta be super careful when doing this, is you use a Dremel tool and you just cut a groove into the screw itself and then you can remove it that way. Let's see if I can just lift towards me like this, and maybe I can hold it into the groove right there and get the screw up even just a little bit. I would be happy with it's not coming up even just a little bit. So in that occasion where you've got a screw that's not coming out, there's another thing that you can do instead. I'm going to try the Dremel first, but if that doesn't work, there's a way in which you start from, you can still pop it up on this side, especially in the case, it's something that you'd be comfortable to do if the screen is good. You try to do what you can to avoid what I'm suggesting you do. I might end up doing it regardless, but you start in another area of the phone that is away from those screws, and then you peel that up, and then you work your way along. I'm going to show you that probably in a bit, because this, what I'm about to do, probably, lots of probablys, it's probably not going to work. Here's the Dremel. I'm going to put it up to the fastest speed I can, so it's third level. And all I'm going to do, and if this touches my skin, it's not a big deal. You see it's not doing anything. I mean, if it hits my nail, it'll put some marks in it. But this is not the kind of cutting edge that will hurt you. At least this particular Dremel. Putting it very carefully. Let me see if I can get this up close to the camera. If the screw hadn't been slightly up, like it's up by about, I'd say 0.5 millimeter. And if it hadn't been up like that, I wouldn't even be attempting this. The reason why I wouldn't be attempting it was because there would be no way I'd be able to get it in there without damaging the frame itself. Let's see if that's enough. So here's a screwdriver that's about the same size as the head of that screw. Let's see if this does the trick. I'm having to put a lot of pressure on this. Doesn't seem to be working. If I could get it out by just 2 millimeters, that itself would be enough for me to get a pair of pliers on it and then work the screw the rest of the way loose. But it's not coming out. No matter how hard I try, it's not budging. So let's throw this on the heater. I've got it at 90 degrees Celsius right now. We're going to see what we can do about getting this screen out. So I'm going to, like usual, just to get this going, we can't get the screw out, so I'm going to put a blade down here. I know this is a good spot for it. Even along there, it wouldn't be bad. And I'm going to put some alcohol in, just like the usual. As you go, just lift up a little, and you'll get it in there. And as you move along, I might even move it over to here instead. I've thrown on some safety glasses because there's glass there. I'm going to lift up right there. That's doing okay. I'm going to put a fingernail in here, and I'm going to put, I'm just going to have to run a blade down along this side here. Once you get down to the bottom, it's going to be a little bit more troublesome because it's probably, yeah, it is not happy. It's just shattering, and it's coming apart. Hopefully that little bit of glue, that alcohol will loosen things up. Here we go. You'd never do it like this normally, but this is, at the moment, the only way to get the screen out. I think that's the spatial sensor. If that gets damaged, cracked, scratched, Face ID will never work again. This definitely feels like a aftermarket screen. You can see how the whole thing is just kind of peeling away from the screen frame. Okay, let's get a little bit more alcohol in there. Get this to loosen up. There. We're down to the little spot right there where it's connected. No, we've got a problem still. Oh, there we go. Very nice. Cables are on the left instead of the right. We're in. I think this was a screen that I've replaced in the past, and it was probably the same issue because you can see right there I've snipped it off. Oh, that was so much harder than I expected. I'm assuming it was me. It may not have been me that worked on this. May as well pull the power up right now, get that battery disconnected, because there's a possibility I might forget, and that's not good. Here we go, and now for the earpiece. And one more right here. Gotta get this and put it into the new screen. And in the meantime, I'm gonna go and do a back replacement on that, get that off. I am not going to record that this time around. It's a pretty straightforward repair, and I've recorded enough of those. They're not fun to record either. So you got a few screws. You got one just like all the others. I'd say from the X series of phones all the way up to I think it's the 13 series. They're all like this, where generally speaking you've got a little tri-wing, and then oh, that one's also a tri-wing. That's interesting. But you've always got a couple of Phillips PH00 000 screws. Now with this particular repair, if you're not careful with this a little bit, it could be broken already just with how badly smucked this screen is. But there is a sensor in here. Oh, it's different. Oh yes, of course, it's a 12 series. They've got it as a pad instead of a piece of plastic. This is much more resilient. Very nice. So I'm just going to get these tweezers just underneath here. I'm going to peel it up very carefully. You don't want to stab it, you want to peel it. It's going to be relatively easy for me this time around simply because it's been replaced before. There we have it. Now this is something I've seen some techs forget to do. Do not forget to peel this off. It's not the biggest deal in the world, but it really should be removed. Now there isn't a chip to transfer. I've been thinking about doing that of late. It's that little guy right there. This one's already prepped for it. The company I buy these screens from make it easy to replace this chip. So I said there is no chip on the, it's not the original, it's the replacement screen. It didn't even have one, which is very rare. They usually come with one. Go, and then this one right here. That's part of the Face ID, as far as I know. Okay, let's put some screws in. Okay, that's done. So I've got the back glass all removed, and I can confirm with this actual phone that I'm now 99% sure I've worked on this phone before. And the reason why I say that is for two reasons. I have a tendency to use that Kempton tape on the back to hold the magnets in place. And also, the glue type was a glue type that I use very commonly for back glasses, which is a kind of a rubberized kind of glue. So it's a little bit easier to get off. Nevertheless, that's done. I can't put the back glass on just yet. To get this last bit done, I actually need to put the screen in place. So as we saw earlier, I got that earpiece installed. Let's get this screen in. Okay, so all we need to do is get that battery reconnected, and let's test. I think it's out of battery. Let's plug it in. There we go. It wants a bit of battery, so let's give it a bit of a charge. We can get that screen up and running, and then we can test that digitizer. So it just got just enough power in it for it to turn on. You can see that it is at 3%. Let's do some tests. I'm going to go into emergency mode just so I can do some touch on the screen without causing any issues. And it looks like it's working very well. So at this point, let's just get those shields on. We can finish this up. I'm going to turn the phone off for now. All right, last screw. Shields are in. Now I'm just going to take a really quick gander around here, make sure everything is exactly as it's supposed to be. I don't see anything that looks loose or out of sorts. There's one last thing I'd like to do with this, because you got to remember that that screw is still lodged in place there. I need to, especially if I ever need to work on it in this phone again, I prefer to snip this. It's not going to do any good otherwise, but I need to snip off one of these right here. They're pretty easy to snip. And I'll just let it sit over top of the existing screw that's still stuck in there. I've tried getting stuck screws, stuck pentalobe screws out in the past, and it's brutal. It's neither worth your time to try to get them out, nor is it really, at least on my part, I didn't really find it to be possible. If you guys are also wondering, why do I take the screen off? I mean, like, I needed to take the screen off regardless because it needed to be replaced, but why do I take the screen off when I do back glass replacements? It's because you see that there's like holes right there, and there's like holes there and here. It's not as bad with the 12 Pro, but it's even worse. It's a lot worse with the 12. You can get a little tiny piece of glass, and if it gets in there, it'll get between the screen and this right here, the camera shield cover. It'll break your screen. So you really need to take the screen off when you're doing a back glass replacement. It's just begging to cause problems for the screen. If it hasn't happened yet, it will. There we go. That went in quite nice. Now let's put our one and only pentalobe screw in. And then I can put, finally, this back cover on there. I'm not going to include that in this video because that's not what this video is about. But if you're curious what it looks like after it's all glued in place, that's what it looks like. Very clean looking. Now, the customer didn't want to wait on an order for a proper blue back cover because if you notice, the frame is actually slightly on the blue side. So they're fine with what I've got here. I'm good with that too. If they're good with that, I'm good with that. But that's all there is to this video, guys. If you like the video, please do leave a like. And if you want to see more of my stuff, subscribe. We'll see you guys all in another video. Bye.